Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. I am so pumped you're here today because we're about to crack a seriously fascinating code. We are going to dig right into the hidden financial mechanics that literally decide whether an airline thrives and rules the skies or totally fails and falls out of them. We're going to build this whole thing from the ground up, starting right now. Okay, so let's just jump right in with the ultimate aviation paradox. Picture this. You're standing at an airport. You see planes taking off left and right. Every single seat is totally packed. Flights are 100% booked up. And yet, behind the scenes, the company is secretly sinking straight into bankruptcy. I mean, how is that even mathematically possible? How do you completely sell out your product but still go under? Well, the answer to that mystery boils down to exactly 3 numbers. Literally just 3. These 3 crucial figures hold the absolute secret to everything in this industry. And the wild part is, almost nobody actually knows how to read them. But today, we're going to decode those 3 numbers together. Here is our game plan for this explainer. Number 1, we've got the balance sheet mirror. Number 2, working capital, or the cushion. Number 3, the breathing cycle. Number 4, net cash. And finally, number 5, taming the aviation curve. All right, part 1, the balance sheet mirror. Look, everything we're about to talk about starts with the basic, fundamental concept of the balance sheet. You can think of a company's entire financial picture like money on a scale, broken into 2 totally different families. On one side, you have the stable, durable stuff, things that last, like your capital and long-term debt. And then, on the exact opposite side, you have the unstable elements. These move at lightning speed. We're talking inventory, client receivables, and supplier payables. Everything we're decoding today is essentially this giant balancing act between the stable and the unstable. Moving right along to part 2, working capital, also known as the cushion. This brings us to our very first mystery number, the long-term financial safety net. Let's put some real-world numbers to this. Imagine an airline has $360 million in stable resources, so capital and long-term debt, but they have $300 million tied up in stable uses, like actually buying aircraft and facilities. If you do the math, that leaves us with a surplus of $60 million. Now that $60 million surplus, that is our working capital, which is often abbreviated as FR. Think of it as the long-term cushion that keeps the entire business running smoothly from day to day. We usually picture this as a nice, stable, flat blue line. But, and this is a quick caveat, while we imagine it as flat just to make it easier to understand, it's really only relatively stable. Actually, it slowly shifts up or down whenever the airline does something massive, like buying a fleet of new planes or taking out a giant new loan. Which leads us to part 3, the breathing cycle, or the BFR. So, if the FR was our nice, stable cushion, the BFR, which stands for Working Capital Requirement, is totally different. This is the daily, undulating financial breathing of the airline. You see, the everyday operating cycle of an airline burns through cash way before it actually earns a single dime. Long before a plane even gets off the ground, the airline is paying out of pocket for jet fuel, airport fees, and suppliers. They have to stock up on all these crazy expensive spare parts, and then they just have to sit around and wait to actually get paid by the travel agencies or the state. This built-in financial gap between paying money out and getting money in, that's the working capital requirement, the BFR. The math here is actually super straightforward. It's just inventory plus receivables minus payables. But the absolute key takeaway you need to remember is that this number is never flat. It braids with the business. Some months it swells up massively, and other months it drops right back down. So instead of a flat blue line, you've got to imagine this number as a wild, undulating red curve that's constantly rising and falling with whatever is going on in the business that day. All right, part 4, net cash. This is where we find the absolute truth. Let's pull it all together into the master equation. Step 1, you take your flat blue line, your long-term cushion, the FR. Step 2, you subtract that wild red curve, your breathing cycle, the BFR. Step 3, that equals your net cash in cold, hard dollars. Net cash is literally the physical gap, the actual space between that flat blue FR line and that breathing red BFR curve. But let's look at how this actually plays out in the real world, because there's a huge misconception about this. People always think, oh, if the blue line is miles above the red curve, that's amazing. Nope, wrong. When that red BFR curve dives way down below the blue line, you hit a positive peak, which means you just have piles of idle cash sitting around doing nothing. That's actually a bad signal. Your shareholders are going to be furious that you aren't investing their money to grow the business. On the flip side, when the red BFR curve climbs up above the flat blue FR line, you're officially short on cash. The bank has to jump in to cover the hole. That's your negative peak, a massive bank overdraft. And that brings high interest rates, crazy tension, and huge risk. So really, both extreme peaks, too much idle cash, or panic-inducing overdrafts are terrible news for the airline.
So what's the goal then? Well, the true marker of a masterfully run airline is a sweet spot we call the green target. It's absolutely not about having the biggest gap possible. A brilliantly managed airline wants a BFR curve that just tightly hugs that FR line. You want the gap to be small but consistently positive. It's all about managing the breathing of the company so that cash stays steady and controlled, not wildly swinging back and forth between hoarding uninvested cash and hitting those stressful overdrafts.
And finally, part 5, taming the aviation curve. Aviation is such a fascinating space because it totally flips normal business rules right on their head. Just think about it. When you book a flight, you pay for your ticket weeks, maybe even months in advance, right? The customer is quite literally funding the airline before the product is even delivered. Because of this dynamic, an airline's BFR can actually drop into the negative, which is a massive, massive financial advantage. But, and it's a big but, this industry is also at the mercy of brutal seasonality. You've got the chaotic summer peaks, huge surges in diaspora travel, and massive religious pilgrimages. During those times, that red curve spikes aggressively and then plummets. Honestly, an airline's entire survival basically comes down to how well they can master and tame that extreme seasonal curve. When you really boil it down, this whole BFR concept is just a giant game of timing. Imagine 2 stopwatches running at the exact same time. One stopwatch is ticking down how long until you have to pay your suppliers, and the other is tracking how long until your customers pay you. If you want to get technical, you can actually calculate this as days of frozen sales. Just divide the BFR by your total revenue and multiply that by 360. But look at the timeline here. If a passenger pays you in week 1, they take their flight in week 4, and you don't even have to pay your fuel supplier until week 6, you are successfully using time to your advantage. In aviation, time literally is money. So there you have it. 3 numbers: your long-term cushion, your daily financial breathing, and the net cash gap that reveals the absolute truth of the business. The next time you're sitting at a crowded gate during the chaotic summer rush, waiting to board a totally packed flight, look out the window and ask yourself, how well is this airline actually managing its red curve right now? Thank you guys so much for hanging out and exploring these financial structures with us today. I highly encourage you to keep diving into the fascinating mechanics that run the world around us. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I will catch you on the next explainer.